Hey, this is Shirtlive. Um, I was thinking about what videos I could make, and my roommates are currently not home, and I look half decent today. So I was like, hey, what a good day to make a video. So I made this dress myself. You can see more things I made on my Instagram. But yeah. So I have been writing for a very long time. The cliche of writing since forever is kind of true in a lot of ways. And so I was just thinking about things I'd wish I'd known when I first started writing. First of those is word count. This is like the number one mistake I see novice writers make, is that they don't know that word count is important. Because when you read books, when you look at them, you flip through the pages, you're like, oh yeah, I want my book to be like, what? 302 words, okay. Or pages. But if you're like me, and you're like original, early 2000s default was Times New Roman 12 font single spaced, that could be a problem. So my first book that became like actual novel sized, which took me 10 years to finish because it was very long. I was very long-witted, read a lot of Sir Walter Scott, it happens. So The Dark Jade is what it's called. It's a Robin Hood retelling with some Scarlet Pimpernel elements thrown in. And it ended up being like, if you do the standard page 12-point font Times New Roman double space, it was 800 pages when I was done. Over that, actually. 840 or something. I haven't checked in a bit. I've edited it since, made it a lot smaller. But yeah, little me beginning to write things, and I'm typing away as a teenager. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's at 30 pages. That is so short. Not knowing that it was at 60 pages if it was in the actual format that books are supposed to be when you submit them. Yeah. And so it ended up being way longer than I needed it to be because I put in a lot of filler stuff because I was like, I need to make it longer and longer because, it was gonna be, it's 800 pages. So, which is quite an accomplishment. I am proud of it. It is now, I'm also even more proud of the fact that it is now down to 400 and something pages, I think. Yeah, I think that's what it's at. Anyways. Then, as I started, thinking about publishing, things like that, I found out that it was kind of double spaced, so, the first book I actually finished made much more sense, and then I joined NaNoWriMo, and was like, oh, 50,000 words, why is that such a thing? And then I found out that word count mattered. I might have found out before NaNoWriMo, but I think that was the big, why is it 50,000 words? Oh, yeah. So, however, and maybe you're stuck on this, 50,000 words is not a proper novel, okay? Just because NaNoWriMo says it, just because they do it, it's okay. That's not a full novel length unless you're writing children's, okay? So, Elle Enchanted, favorite book freaking on earth, okay? And the non-religious book, we'll go with that, is, I think, 45,000? So if you were doing, young children's, middle grade, you can go below 50,000, but that's, not the norm, not usually acceptable for books. Okay? So, quick breakdown. Okay? Word count matters. Pages don't matter because everyone has a different computer. For some reason, my LibreOffice leaves, larger margins. Even if you set the margins, it'll arrange them differently. Anyways. So my LibreOffice and my Google Docs are always a different size. Okay? So because of that, it doesn't matter your page count. What matters is your word count. Okay, that gives them a better gauge of how long it is. Now, I know it's different if you have longer words or shorter words or whatever, depending on your vocabulary, but that's what publishing companies use to gauge how long your novel is. Okay? Which I'm sure a lot of you was like, well, duh, but I didn't know that when I was a first writer, so maybe some of you guys don't. Especially because, you know, when you're a teenager writing, what's your experience with writing? Probably just books, although we have a lot more internet today than we did when I was beginning writing. Yeah, we all dial up, you know. Welcome to CompuServe. So yeah, I just aged myself, you know. Just to give you a rundown, you can look this up all over the internet, but if you're curious, the main things to remember are just 50,000 words is too short unless it is a young children's novel. Okay? You can do like up to like 60 is a little short on the YA side, but all the way up to 75. And to give you some context, Harry Potter, the first Harry Potter is 75, which for me, that was way too long for a children's novel. I'm sorry if you love Harry Potter, but the first one was way too long for a children's novel. Then for like YA, you can go up to 80,000. It's possible to go past that, but for a debut novel, your first novel out there needs to be short enough that your agent will be more willing to commit to it. Because if it's too long, it's gonna be hard to like they want to invest. And if people aren't already invested in you, looking at a long book's not gonna help. Like, I recently read We Hunt the Flame, and like, it was a good book, but like, for my first experience with that author, it was too long for me because I don't know if I trust them yet, and so that's a lot of commitment for someone I don't trust. Okay? It's like going on a 4-hour date with someone you just met. You know? You don't want that. You don't want too long of a date with someone you just met. Okay? So that's why your debut novel usually should be on the shorter end. Okay? So like Splinter of Glass, which is what I'm querying right now, which is a Snow Queen fairy tale retelling. It is 80-something thousand. It fluctuates as I edit it, you know. But on the low end of 80. Maybe 84. Okay? Which I think is good. You can go up to 90 probably and still be safe. Romance novels are kind of the same range for like your debut. Should be around 80 to 90. Is, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these. And then for fantasy, you can go a little bit higher because they understand you have to explain things, right? You have to give a little more context. So, but I wouldn't go too far. Okay? But if, like, for example, We Hunt the Flame, she needed a lot of words in the beginning to establish her fantasy. My problem was more the second half. She did not need all those words. Okay? So if you are using those words, you're using them to explain the universe, you are using them to, like, let us know what's going on. If you are Brandon Sanderson, then yes, you can go on the higher end. Okay? Brandon Sanderson uses his words like, Mistborn is 600 pages, which would usually be too long for me, but in Mistborn, he's able to make it feel like the book is moving along. Like, all the information I'm getting is important. There's a lot less of that book where I felt like, okay, let's move on. We've seen this scene before. Okay. So yeah, if you're using the words in fantasy, then you can't go higher, and you can go up to 120,000. Alright? But that's like on the long end, and you really need to show in those first pages that you are using your words. Okay? With economy. And that they're necessary. So now, after I've learned that, my longest book I've written since writing The Dark Jade is The Vestat, which is 107. And I think I need to cut that short, but it's got a lot of, it's kind of a meatier book. So yeah, I've written a lot of books, which is also what gives me a lot of experience here. But yeah, 120 on the long end, and now you may be like, but there's so many other books in there that are like so much longer. And like, have you seen the Brothers Karamazov? Why are the books I need never over here when I need them? Where is the Brothers Karamazov? Anyways, yeah, 700 books, great book. I loved it. It does drag a little bit, but it's good. Yes, there are exceptions, but like, it's a general rule of writing is you're not the exception, okay? It's like, don't call us, we'll call you. You will be told when you're the exception, okay? You're not the exception. You're never going to be the exception. Just don't expect it. Never expect to be the exception. Blah. Try saying that 5 times fast. If you are, then it's like, great, party, yay! But don't try it at first, okay? And I understand you're going to try it anyways. If you have a book that's too long and you feel like you really got the writing and you really are using your words with economy, then like, sure, go for it. I queried books that I knew didn't have a genre place, okay? But, yeah. So that's the first thing. Word counts are important, and there is a certain range for them, and there are reasons for that range. And what I would do is, like, if you have a really long one that you think is going to be really great, but you also have a shorter idea, go for the shorter idea first. The other one can wait, and like letting it wait and sit is actually, it's going to be good for it. It'll give it room that you can edit it. So The Dark Jade, letting it sit after a while was good, because then I could go back. And of course, things I wrote when I'm 14 did not stay most of the time. Did a lot more editing on the first half than I ended up having to do on the second half. So yeah. And then that wouldn't be the book that I would try to publish first. If I could get my alternate history genres going, that wouldn't be it. It would be, I would go for my Revolution one, my activity. Because it's shorter, and so it gives me a chance to like, it gives me that like short, nice, good sized date. So that once my readers have read that, they've experienced the relationship and they're like, you know what? Let's take this a step further. Maybe now we can read your 400-page book. Okay? Okay. But that's my input as an author. There could be other authors who disagree. I don't know. But that is the first thing that I wish I had known. Word count. Kind of mostly that was just a rant. And that's why I'm posting it kind of as my second video, just because I feel like it's the number one thing you don't know that you don't know when you start writing. And there's a lot of things that I think it's easy to think we know a lot of things and be like, yeah, well, I can just Google it. But you can't Google what you don't know to Google. And that's been a huge part of the writing process, is realizing that like there's a lot of things I don't know that I don't know. And I feel like it's also a problem a lot of self-publishers, and maybe I'll talk more about that later, fall into, is that they think they know the process and they think they know how to Google the process, but there are weird things that if you don't know about them, you won't know where to look for them, like genre codes. So yeah, that's it. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more writing tips. I mean, hopefully they'll get more complicated as we go along. I'm trying to keep these to like 15 minutes so they're not just super long, but I do really enjoy ranting. Yeah, that's it. Bye!